So I got 8 classes when I was in law school, got 3 HDs in my last semester, and now I'm a lawyer. I am going to unpack how to answer an exam question, specifically your law school exams. I'm going to use the example of the last law school exam that I did, where I got a HD in it. So let's break it down. By the way, I have a blog called lawyerandbuddy.com. It currently has 200 plus blog posts on personal development. I will soon be posting blog posts for aspiring lawyers, including study tips, exam tips. So stay tuned. I also started posting law content on my Instagram as well. So first things first, I'm going to go backwards a bit. We're going to start with your exam preparation because your exam preparation can make and break how you end up doing in the exam. Obviously, you want to have your exam notes, but what are you going to include in exam notes? Obviously, the exam notes is going to include everything that you learned in the lectures, the reading notes that you got from your classes, but also have separate exam notes for all of the case law that you've done and all of the legislation. Have that separately. It is normal that you'll end up with like 100 plus pages of notes. Bonus hot tip, do a table of contents. I honestly feel like that takes away some of your stress on the day of the exam is if you have a table of contents. I'll give you a little bit of an example of the case law notes. This is the topic on equitable remedies. So you put the principle here, so whatever the principle is, and then you put the case here, and then you put the judgment there. So that's how it was done. I'll tell you right now, doing a table like this will really help with the writing part of the exam. The next thing, you probably heard this one. You probably heard this like multiple times, and you've heard this multiple times for a reason. The exam questions, where there's a hypothetical question or anything that requires you to answer, it automatically assumes that you're going to be using IRAC. Most especially for those hypothetical questions. As a little refresher, obviously when you do read through the exam question, you gotta identify the issue, or if there's more than one issue, you gotta repeat the IRAC process for each of those issues. Obviously, the first thing that you gotta look for are the issues. And if you know IRAC, you gotta put in the relevant law, you gotta put in the application, and then you're gonna put in a conclusion. That's why something like this is really helpful because the table will mainly do it for you. And obviously you've gotta expand, sometimes you gotta write more, sometimes you gotta elaborate. The main key things, the R of IRAC and the A of IRAC. Obviously you gotta use your critical thinking skills, how that case law or legislation, judgment of that case or that section of that legislation applies to that very exam question, all to your critical thinking, as well as the conclusion as well. That's all to your critical thinking. The main thing that you are looking for in the first place is the issue. Once you identify the issue, then you're able to complete the rest. Again, IRAC is repeated multiple times in law school, but for a good reason. One last tip. What happens if you're in a mind blank? That was me all throughout law school. So this is similar to IRAC, but obviously expanding it a little. When I'm in an exam, I like to bring with me spare pieces